the one who keeps everything running very smoothly. Victoria cannot be here today. So be patient. I will do the very best I can, but it's really tough to teach and get all the questions. If I don't get them the first time, just ask again. Yes?
I was just thinking, like, maybe my mom can use my Skype and call in on the phone here, like on the phone line it says, use the phone, and try that. Maybe there won't be any lag.
Okay, whatever you want. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to troubleshoot this because I think it would be really helpful if she could help you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, well, let's get started with the actual class itself. Tonight's class is on foraging. There's a lot of reasons to forage. I really believe in doing this. I don't forage everything I eat, of course, but what I would do is I wanted my kids to grow up be very self-sufficient, because there's times in my mother's life, my mother was born in 1921, and there's times that they would not have been able to make it had they not been able to go out and just gather food out of the wild, especially in the early spring before they had time to plant things. So knowing that and just wanting them just to know, like if they get lost in the woods or something like that, I wanted them to learn how to do it. So my poor kids were supposed to eat out of the wild 1 week out of the summer. Usually it was in the early spring. For a week they had to live off of the wild. They were allowed to use butter and salt and flour and stuff like that to make it palatable, but I wanted the main part of their mainstay to be in what they gathered out of the wild. We lived in a perfect place. There's a lot of woods around us, although you can get a lot of this stuff in your yard too. And although the first year that we did it, they absolutely hated it, subsequent years, they liked it. And my daughter was just saying not too long ago that she's glad that she has those skills. So I guess they're not going to turn children's services on me for being such a mean mom. But it really, it gives them a feeling of they can handle anything. So many reasons. One is they're non-GMO. They have not made genetically modified weeds yet. Hopefully they never will. So that's one thing. If you gather food out of the wild, you know there's no GMO on it. Usually they're organic, especially if you get in a place that, like in the woods or in a field that no one has done for a long time. So you're eating food that isn't full of that junk. As I said, in emergency, you know, times have gotten bad before in the world. There's been blight of different foods and things like that. Or, like I said, if you get lost in the woods, you'll be able to you know, sustain yourself till someone finds you. And it gives you a real feeling of self-reliance and security. Other reason is, my favorite reason, it's cheap. I'm a cheap human being. So I would rather gather leeks across the road than to go to the store and buy onions. Also, a lot of these herbs have adaptogens in it that you don't get in annual plants like tomatoes and lettuce and things like that. The reason for that is the nutritional potential. Most annual plants only go so far into the dirt to get its nutrients, while some herbs have a really deep taproot. They get the nutrients down here where they haven't been stripped. So there's foods like alfalfa and dandelion, things like that, that are very high in nutrients, more so than just regular foods. Also, it adds a little variety to your life. you know. Some of them have very unique taste. So these are some of the common reasons why people might want to. Then can you find out who's echoing, please? So these are some of the common reasons why people might want to forage. The only thing about foraging is you need to know your plant. It can be very, very dangerous. Get a really good book, or preferably have someone take you out and teach you this. I had two people that basically taught me. One was an American Indian named Butch, and that's where I got my master herbalist off of, is him. And another one was a friend of mine named Karen Baird. She was really into nature. I mean, I never went with her gardening because she and her family garden in the nude, which, quite frankly, I'm not real sure I want to be bit in any particular place and explain that to a doctor. Anyhow, that's neither here nor there. So you need to either get a really, really good book so you know for sure what you're getting, or have someone show you the defining marks. Yeah, good. So which one's Queen Anne's lace? The one on the left or the one on the right? Exactly. So Raven, you must do a little bit of this. Queen Anne's lace, this is an example of Queen Anne's lace, is on the left. This is hemlock. One you can eat, the roots, it was just like a wild carrot. The other one, it'll kill you. So you need to know your plants. I have just a handful of plants. I think I got 10 plants that you can start with. They're easy. They're pretty good tasting. It doesn't take a lot to get used to the taste, and they're easily identifiable. I suggest that you do that first until you get used to looking at plants. The difference between this and this plant, although they look a lot the same, is this little black dot right here, a little black seed. There's other subtle differences, but that is the best difference. Plus, the root will smell just like a carrot. Doesn't taste just like a carrot, but it smells just like a carrot. And you can cook it and use it like you would a carrot. So make sure you identify it, compare it to other plants it could possibly be. You look at the roots, the leaves, the stems. You smell it. Hemlock has a different smell than Queen Anne's lace, the root of it. You smell it. Then double or triple check. I say that because whenever, and there's not going to be any mushrooms in here. Whenever I was young, my father was in the hospital. He had taken a heart attack or had bleeding ulcers. I can't remember which one he was in for. He had both. But there was a gentleman that had collected mushrooms for like 40 years, or even like 50 years, something like that. Long, long time out of the wild, and ate them. And he got the wrong kind of mushrooms that poisoned him. And he ended up with peritonitis, and he almost died. The poor guy was in such agony and sick, really, really sick. So check, double check. Stay away from the ones that are hard to know what it is. I said about asking others. And know which part is edible. Just because one part of the plant is edible does not mean that the whole plant is edible. There are some things like, let me try to think of rhubarb. Rhubarb, the leaf is poisonous, but the stem is not. So be careful that you know what part is edible. Also, what right time to gather it. Some things like May apples, if you gather them at the wrong time of the year, they're toxic. If you wait until they're fully ripe, they are not. Also, there's some plants that are biannuals. And what a biannual is the first year the plant grows, and then the winter kills it off. And the second year, it grows again, and it develops a seed. And at the end of that year, the seed drops and it replants itself, but that root will not grow again. So you need to know if you're working with annual plants or biannual plants, and whether or not you eat it the first year, or if it's better to eat it the second year plant or root. Then you need to know how it needs to be prepared. We're going to talk about some of those yet. And the amount that's edible. I mean, even mustard is a poison. So you have to know how much of it you can eat and get away with it. And only know plants that you know 100%.
Hey, Mary.
Yeah?
How does that sound? Does that sound okay?
A little bit.
Okay. Can you hear okay?
There's just a little sound whenever you talk sometimes, but yeah, it's pretty good.
Is there before?
No, that wasn't so good. Okay,
Okay.
so simpling is taking one thing and taste just a little piece, just a little piece by itself, to make sure that you don't have any bad reaction. And I mean just a little dab. And if it tastes really bad, don't eat it. Alkaloids make it taste really, really bad. Okay, there's different kinds of roots. We're not going to go over them. I just want to show you. There are roots that go like this, and this would be like mints and stuff like that, where every place that this touches will cause a root to develop. There's rhizomes. These are more like, there's tubers, they're more like potatoes. There's bulbs. There's taproots. Again, bulbs. Also, whenever you get it, make sure that you read the book and see if they have opposing leaves or alternating leaves. This one, opposing leaves are right across from each other. Alternating leaves are like this. There's a really good book called Back to Eden from Jethro Tull, I think his name is. But he has no pictures at all. I suggest you get one with pictures, so you know what a rosette is. You know what a rosette base is. Okay. Could you hear it okay when I tried Skype? It wasn't real clear yet, Elliot. And then the flowers. So make sure they describe every part of the plant so that you know what part you're using. Okay, thank you, Lynn. Sorry, I just couldn't hear it very well. But Elliot, I think yours sounded pretty good if you want to read, perhaps. Okay, this is burdock.
Yeah, sure.
I appreciate that. Burdock is a biennial plant. So the first year, the leaves just grow, and then the second year you get the flowers. And burdock is what inspired Velcro. When you walk past it, it clicks onto you, and it's hard to pull it off. It has these little burrs on it. You want to make sure that you know where the plant is and know the plant really well. The first year plant is when the root is the best. I would not use the second year plant. I mean root. I would just use the stems and the stalk. So if you're going to do the root, make sure that you know where it is, and you really have gathered it out of the wild so many times that you cannot make a mistake through it. The root, you can peel it like you do potatoes and fry with butter. However, what I do is I double boil the root. So I take the root, I clean it off like you would peel potatoes, to mashed potatoes. I have them in small hunks. I don't have them in huge hunks. I put them in water. I boil them. I drain the water out, and I fill it up with fresh water, and I boil again. Then I fry it in butter to make sure the alkaloid is completely out, because if not, it can poison you. However, if you do eat it, it has a pungent taste, but it's kind of addictive, kind of like asparagus. It doesn't taste like asparagus. Asparagus is the same thing. It has like one of those tastes that after a while you really kind of crave it. And that is what burdock is. But burdock cleanses the blood and the lymph. It gets rid of acid out of the body, so it's good for arthritis and gout and things like that. And it helps the body overcome poison ivy. Yeah, I'm not sure where the echo comes from. Oh, you got it good. So, burdock is one of the foods that not only can you eat it for survival, but it actually helps you health-wise, especially poison ivy. Jewelweed putting on topically is the best thing to do right away with poison ivy. The second best thing is burdock internally. Really cleans it up very quickly. So this leaf looks a lot like this leaf, which is a rhubarb. However, you can see that the stalk is different.
You handle questions, I'll handle muting sounds, okay?
I just heard that, Lynn.
Oh, sorry.
No. I'm sorry. I mean, you're clear now.
Because I'm on Elliot's mic, and it's built in, I guess.
Okay. Well, you sound good.
Oh, good.
Okay, so this is rhubarb. As I said, the leaves are poisonous, but the stalks are not. The stalk has like a reddish hint to it sometimes. The red rhubarb does. There's green rhubarb as well, and it doesn't have this reddish hint to it. It's just green. I like the red better, personally. And what you can do is you can cut the stalk off here to here, from the ground to the leaf, no leaf on there, and just cook it. You just rinse it off, put it in with a little bit of water, and steam it and cook it. And then I put it in a pureer, or in a blender, and puree it, put a little bit of sugar and strawberries. Very good. It's almost like a pudding. My kids like that one.
Mary, Philip is asking, how far below the leaf should we cut it off?
As long as there's no leaf, it can be clean up to the joint.
Well,
just no point of the leaf at all. So let's say the leaf goes here, and then this is where the leaf is. You can cut it right there. Just make sure that you don't get any of the leaf on it.
I don't know. Somehow that sounds like it hurts, Mary.
It hurts?
You know, you're talking about cutting it off at the joints. Kind of made me a little queasy there.
You know what? Actually, some people think that rhubarb is good for the bones.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so, and you do it before it flowers. Usually, if you cut it down a couple times, it doesn't flower as early. Oh, yeah, and you cut it into little pieces. I forgot that I did that. And put it with strawberries and a sweetener. I do a little bit of sugar. It's really very good. You probably have heard of rhubarb pie. People can make pie as well from it. I never did that. I just made the rhubarb with the strawberries. And oh, my goodness, it is really good. Why they don't have it in restaurants is beyond me. So any questions about rhubarb? And if you decide to buy rhubarb and grow it in your yard, it's a perennial plant. You plant it once and it'll last for half your lifetime, if not longer. Okay, the next one is sheep sorrel, and it was hard to get a picture of sheep sorrel. The leaves kind of go like this, like a spade, and it hooks like this. So there's like, these look like they're torn. They're not. It hooks down like this. Sheep sorrel grows everywhere. And it gets these, if you don't mow your grass, it even grows in your lawn. I mean, in your yard if you don't have, like, special grass. Just let weeds kind of keep plowed down weeds. But it gets like a long stem with little red seedlings on it. Sheep sorrel is delicious. I like just to get out in the wild, rinse it off, and just eat it. They are very, very good. They are like almost sorrels. They're a little bit bitter, but in a good way. You know, a little bit sour. I think sour might be better than bitter. You can use them in soups. They're good in soups. They're good in salad. Or, like I said, I would just eat them straight. They cleanse the body. They're a very good blood and lymph cleanser. Matter of fact, this plant right here is one of the 4 ingredients in SCAC tea. And another one is the burdock. So burdock and sheep sorrel are 2 of the ingredients in SCAC tea. That's how good of a lymph cleanser they are.
Mary?
Mm-hmm.
Raven's asking, it doesn't get very tall, does it?
These leaves stay close to the bottom. Now, the little thingy like this will get up maybe about 1.5 feet tall. But most of the leaves stay, I would say, probably under 8 inches, 7 inches. And that's a big one. Usually they're even lower than that. So yeah, it doesn't get real tall. And these leaves are not nearly that big. They're probably, the biggest leaves you'll find is probably only as big as the middle part of the joint of your index finger. I just wanted to make sure you knew what they look like. Very good. Wood sorrel is another one. And most people have seen wood sorrel. They think that it's a 3-leaf clover, but it's not because it has a heart shape to it and it doesn't have the V. And it has a yellow flower instead of a red puff or white puff. Wood sorrel is the same thing. It is an herb that is a bitter. You can use it the exact same way. It also helps cleanse the lymph. And I'll tell you what it's really good with. If you make like a fruit salad, if you're going to go to do something fancy and do a fruit salad, you can put the flower and the leaves in the fruit, and it kind of makes it look pretty. The other thing is if you eat too much of it, you get diarrhea. It really causes you to cleanse. Any questions about wood sorrel? And this grows all over the place, too.
Nope, looks like we're good, Mary.
Okay. Catty nine-tails. They're called something else, but we always call them catty nine-tails.
Just cattails.
Just cattails?
No.
Okay, I don't know why we call them catty nine-tails, but that's what we used to call them.
Because you're from Pennsylvania.
That's true. That's true. The 2 parts that are edible is the shoots, you know, these green shoots right here. Before they get very tall and this grows in a swampish area where there's swamp. But whenever it's just starting out, maybe about, again, about 7, 8 inches, 6 inches, something like that, you cut them off and you can fry them in butter. This part is all fuzzy. If you pull it apart, it's like what you put in, it looks like stuffing for like a stuffed animal or something almost. But if you get them when they're real small, about the thickness of your finger, and they're still green, oh, I guess I should tell you this. I should change this. You can put them in water and boil them like you would corn, and kind of roll them in corn after you boil them and eat them. They are delicious. This is another one that my kids really, really loved. The only thing is you have to get in the beginning. Even July is kind of pushing it. May and June is probably whenever you would get the shoots.
Hey, Mary?
Yeah?
Would you like to tell your story about how your children learned to love all these yummy things?
I did. You mean about how I made them do it for a week in the summertime?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you weren't here yet whenever I was saying it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right.
Me, I did. And although they hated it the first year, after that, they kind of liked it. And after the week was over, we would still gather some of this stuff and eat it because it tastes good.
I bet it saved a lot of money.
It doesn't. It's just something cool about it.
Yeah.
There's something cool about being able to walk in nature and just graze, you know, or know what things are.
Well, exactly, because, Mary, I've wanted to do that for a long time, be able to walk outside, look around, and know what I'm looking at, you know, what's medicinal, what could I actually eat. I've always thought that would be something really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. It is. Oh, and by the way, these things here where it says YouTube, these are YouTube videos that you can look at, and they'll actually show them being prepared and what they look like and where they're found and stuff like that.
That is cool. Thanks for including us.
Yeah, I don't have them for all of them, but some of them I did. And I'm not sure what canine tails are good for. I just know they taste really, really good. Okay.
No questions. We're good, Mary.
All right. Leeks. Leeks are early spring is when we usually gather the leeks. They're kind of like a wild onion, mild tasting. You can put them in soups or fry them in butter. Usually you cut them open so that they can cook better. Also you soak them in water to clean them, so you get all the stuff that might be in there out.
And if you can handle them, they're excellent in potato soup.
Yeah.
Leek and potato soup, that's, I've seen that in famous restaurants.
Oh, really?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, they're milder in the spring, and they get a little stronger later on.
Mm.
But yeah, they're good. They are. Okay, another one is called a mayapple. Now, I don't know if this grows like where it's really hot in the desert. I don't think so, because it needs a lot of woods around it. You don't see it growing in the field. It's always in the woods. And it's called mayapple because you find it in May. Many parts of it is poisonous. So this one, do not do it without really doing your homework first. You need to make sure that you don't eat any of the plant at all. The plant is poisonous. You eat it, you could die. So don't eat the plant. But it develops a fruit. Eating the fruit when it's green, you can get really, really sick. I'm not sure if you can die, but you can get really, 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 really sick. Make sure it's fully ripe. And that's the only part you eat is the fruit part. Some people just eat it. I don't like to just eat it straight, but if you make it into jelly, it's a very good jelly. And this tells you how to make the jelly.
People are enthralled, Mary. There aren't any questions.
Well, this is kind of a little bit unusual. Okay, these are fiddleheads.
Ugh.
Fiddleheads are a lot of work. They taste good, but they're a lot of work. And what these fiddleheads turn into is ferns later on. So this is the ferns as soon as they start coming out of the ground. In my area, we got them out of the woods. There's a lot of cleaning done to them. But you want to make sure they're still tightly wind. You don't want to wait until they start, opening up. Take off all the brown, so you have to rinse it and rinse it and rinse it. Then you boil, drain, and then you fry in butter. So they're a lot of work, and cleaning them is a lot of work too. You get all the little brown, like hulls almost. You know how like you have popcorn, there's a hull wood. That's what it reminds me of. And there's a lot of work getting them off.
Well, Mary.
Yeah?
Like, what do they taste like? Because I see them in the markets here. And, because I just have this, I don't know, aversion to the way they look, I have never even tried one. But
they're
people,
nice. They're good tasting. I like them. I like fiddleheads. What they taste like, it's really hard to describe. Like, how would you describe what does a potato taste like?
Yeah.
Or how does asparagus taste like? It's really, or lettuce, There's nothing that tastes just like it. It's not sweet. It's not bitter. It just has this taste.
Okay, Eileen, she says it tastes like spring, or whatever that tastes like, too. Good try, Eileen.
Try them. I think you will like them. If
I can close my eyes, maybe, because just the way they look like an animal or something.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Yeah, I just have this aversion to them. I look at them and I want to get sick, so I just keep walking.
I think you would be pleasantly surprised. I actually enjoy fiddleheads.
Oh, just for you, Mary. I will try them. I'll get
Make sure you double boil them.
I will.
And then fry them in butter.
All right.
Okay. Dandelions. Every part of the dandelion is edible, but I don't like all parts of the dandelion. What I have done, whenever they're like this, I just let them alone. Whenever you blow on to make a wish, I just let them alone. But I do like the flowers. You take the flowers, you put a little bit of turmeric, a little bit of egg, and a little bit of flour, and you make like a batter, and you fry them. Ooh, very good. The leaves, although I think I have a, no, I don't. On my website, I have a salad that you can make with the leaves. It's potatoes, it's bacon, and things like that you can make leaves. I don't do that. I rinse the leaves off and I just stick them in my salad, like you would endive. In the spring is when they're best. After that, they start getting a little stronger tasting than what I like. Although some people eat them all the whole year. I eat more in the spring or in the tender leaves. They're coming up. So if you have a section in your garden, if you pull them out, they're going to grow back again because the root goes down forever. And when they keep coming up, you can take the tender leaves. They're the best part. The root you can dry and powder, and you can use it as a flour to thicken stews or make gravy. You can make a tea out of the root. Some people make a coffee substitute out of the root. The only thing about the root is it's a diuretic. So if someone's on dialysis, They should not take dandelion root. But what it does is it cleanses the blood, the liver, and the kidneys. It's very good for you. It's high in iron. Okay, other questions?
Nope, everything's good.
Okay.
We're just basically chatting.
All righty. The next one is chickweed. If you don't weed your garden like you should, you have some chickweed probably growing in it. And this is what chickweed looks like. After it gets longer, it has opposing leaves. They get further apart. This looks like it's all one plant, but since I don't weed my garden the way that I should, often the leaves are like pretty far apart, maybe like this far apart. And the leaves kind of go like this. And it has these little delicate white flowers on it. That's how you know it's chickweed. And chickweed is absolutely amazing. Any part from the ground up is edible. You can put it in a salad, that's how I do it, because I'm kind of lazy. Although you can put it in your sandwiches or soups.
I think my thighs need to sniff out some chickweed.
Well, chickweed does a lot of things. It helps to break fats everywhere. You're right. It helps fat like cellulose or cellulite. Cellulite. It helps get fats out of organs, so it's good for a fatty liver. It helps clean cholesterol off your arteries.
Wow.
Very high in potassium, so it's good for the kidneys, the heart. And it's a natural appetite suppressant. I accidentally took a bottle of chickweed one time. At one time, I was taking 45 liver cleanse a day. Well, actually, 45 liver cleanse twice a day. No, I was taking 45 a day. Yeah. And I had a bottle of chickweed, and I thought it was my liver cleanse, and I opened it up, and I'm watching TV, and I'm taking it, and I'm taking it. Oh, man, this is lasting forever. And there had only been about 6 out of that chickweed, and I took the whole bottle at one time. I did not get hungry the whole day.
Oh, my goodness.
But it doesn't make you sick. It didn't make me sick at all. But like I said, this is really good for fatty liver, cholesterol problems. You know those little fat bubbles you get underneath your eyes, around your eyes? It's good for that. And this is a tea berry. Tea berries have a very pleasant, sweetish taste. You know, kind of sweet. And you just eat the berries. They go very close to the ground. I mean, maybe 1.5 inches off the ground is about as high as it gets. And you get these little berries, and you just pick them and eat them. Some people use the leaves. I've never used the leaves. I've only ever eaten the berries. Until I did research and looked at this YouTube place, I didn't even know you could use the leaves. I also found that the leaves can mess up the kidneys if you do too much in the stomach. So don't do too much of it. Probably why my mom and people because my mom taught me about tea berry. We have them grow in our backyard. Probably never told me about the leaves because too much of it can mess up the kidneys. But the berries, man, we see berries like crazy. They don't do anything to you. Remember a long time ago they used to have tea berry gum? It came in like a pinkish wrapping. Do you remember that? You don't remember the tea berry shuffle? You don't remember that?
No.
Okay. Oh, bummer. Well, anyhow, that's what tea berry tastes like. Jewelweed, although jewelweed usually is known for the leaves crushed up to help with, if you've been exposed to poison ivy, to get rid of the oil from the poison ivy. The seeds are edible. I've never eaten the flowers, although they're supposed to be edible. I always ever ate the seeds. The seed pods will get about this big, and they get really fat. And some people call them touch-me-nots because when you touch them, they go and they explode, and these seeds come out. How we harvest them is we would just get a brown paper bag. You dip the pods, not whenever it has the flowers, but oh, here's a pod right there. You see the pod? Wait a minute. Yeah, here's a pod. This is what the pod looks like right here. So whenever they get a little bit fatter, they look like they're pregnant, you put the whole plant in a paper bag and you just shake them. And from shaking them, it causes them to burst open and you get all these seeds. The seeds are kind of pleasant. You can just eat them, or you can put them in stir fry or put them in your salad, whatever you want to do. And remember, the jewelweed itself is not edible, just the seeds. And from this, I learned the flowers, but I've never, like I said, eaten the flowers.
Does it have any medicinal properties?
I don't know. I know the plant does for getting rid of poison ivy, but I don't know about the seeds.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, they just give things a good taste. This is a picture of my wild ginger. Wild ginger is really easy to grow. If you have a place where you have all-day shade and you can't grow anything there, you can grow ginger.
Right.
And my ginger back home, not so much here, they doesn't like it here, but back home, my ginger was just so thick you couldn't even see any gaps. But here you can see gaps. And it gets this really unusual flower. It always has 3 stems. And the American Indian that taught me how to gather aloud, he said it stood for the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Wow.
But wild ginger, the part you don't use the leaves or the flower, you use just the roots. And it tastes like a very mild ginger, not one of those hot ginger, but almost like a ginger snap ginger, that kind of mildness. And my daughter used to go out there and eat it all the time. I go to mow the grass and I see a big hunk of my ginger gone. I knew it was. You can make it into a tea. You can make a syrup and use it like maple syrup to put on even pancakes or on things.
Mary, you're making me hungry.
Oh, stop it.
Oh
Now they say
gosh.
you can. This said you can use the leaves. I never used the leaves. We only ever use the root. And it's really good to make a tea out of it for sore throats. And ginger also is an anti-inflammatory. It helps with digestion, and it helps settle the tummy.
Mary?
Yeah?
Elliot's asking, is wild ginger easy to grow?
Oh, yeah. I started out with like 3 or 4 plants that was about the size of, I mean, they could fit in the palm of my hand. And before I moved out here, I had 2 sections that were probably about 5 foot by 5 foot. And
Wow.
it just grew on its own. Because we could never grow anything in that part of the house because it got all-day shade.
Oh. Now, was it a spreader, you know, like you said
Yeah.
about comfrey?
Well, no, comfrey doesn't spread. Comfrey just, you can't get rid of it.
Oh.
But it spreads. Yeah, the seeds fall and spread, and then the roots are kind of like, let me show you the kind of roots it is.
So not deep, like comfrey, but then spreading like wild strawberries.
Yeah,
maybe.
they're not deep. They're more like this kind of root.
Yeah, yeah,
Almost like a mint,
yeah.
but not quite as invasive. I
Mm.
mean, mints go crazy, but it'll keep, if you start in an area and keep other plants out, other plants will drown it out very easily. So as long as you keep the dirt from having other, like grass or something grown, it'll fill in the whole area.
Oh.
And you only water it the day you plant it, and you never water it after that. So it takes care of itself.
Wow.
It comes up year after year.
But does it go dormant, say, in wintertime, sort of a
Yeah,
hardy
it dies
plant?
off in the winter. It dies
Yeah.
off in the winter, and then in the early spring, it starts coming up, and then that's when you see the flower.
Oh, nice.
But you don't see the flower the whole year long. It's just in the spring you see the flower.
Yeah. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Another thing is wild violets. Wild violets grow just about everywhere in this area. Anybody else ever see wild violets?
No.
There are also another thing called Johnny Jump Ups, where they have the yellow, the blue, and the white, or the purple, I guess yellow and white. But they grow too. They are actually biannual plants, but they reseed themselves. The leaves you can put in a salad, although I never have. The flowers I often have put in fruit salad. Again, it makes it look really pretty. You know, you have this pretty fruit salad, and you don't have many that vibrant color. And you put it in there, it just looks really pretty. Or you can candy them. What you do is you boil sugar, and you take something that like a grabby thingy. I don't know what you call it. Like if you're going to make salad or something, a grabby thingy.
Tongs?
Salad forks. Prongs. There you go. Yeah. And you hold that and you just dip it in the sugar and you let it dry for a second and let it dry, and it's a candy. Tastes good.
Mary?
Yeah?
And you agreed with me. I should have said tongs, but I said thongs, and you agreed.
Oh, I thought you said tongs. That's not quite the same thing, are they?
No, and I think Victoria's rubbing off on us.
Although you do need your tongs to clean out the thongs sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I didn't pick up on that. The tong. Make sure that it's not a larkspur plant. I don't know what a larkspur plant looks like, but that was in the guy in the YouTube thing, I think, mentioned that. But most people have violets growing in their yard in the spring. And you can make a syrup out of it, a cough syrup out of it.
Ooh, nice.
And it's very pleasant tasting. Okay, slippery elm. Slippery elm in this area and in the area that I used to live in, it's kind of scarce. It's not nearly as prevalent as it used to be. But the leaves look like this, and they look like they would be jaggy, but they're not. They're nice and they're not jaggy at all. And the trunk of the tree looks like this. The thing that you can really tell is the seeds fan out like that, and then there's like a hard seed in the middle. I couldn't find a real good picture of it. But slippery elm is what the, whenever they had the revolution, not the Revolutionary War, Revolutionary War. And remember, some of the men were dying of dysentery, and they said that the American Indians gave them a root of the bark of a tree to eat. These men were starving to death, and their intestines were just like liquefying and rotting, and they ate the slippery elm, and it healed their intestines. The only thing is you can't harvest it too much. If you do, you kill the tree. And you don't use this part of the bark. Whenever you take the bark off, let's say this is a side section of the bark. This is the rough part of the bark. And then there's like an inner bark. This is the part that you use, the inner bark. You can dry it and powder it. You can make a tea out of it. The other thing is, if you're pregnant, do not douche with it, because it can cause a miscarriage.
Okay, well, I guess that leaves Elliot out, right?
Yeah. No douching, Elliot.
No,
But
that's
slippery
slippery
elm,
elm.
it's an amazing plant. That's okay.
Yeah. Oh, ditto. That's what I was just going to say. It is one wonderful plant.
It is. But it's really, really rare to find now. When I was a kid, there was a lot of slippery elm plants, or trees, not plants, slippery elm trees. And they get really big, too. They get like, what, 30, 40 feet high. And you don't see them very much anymore. I don't know if people are harvesting them for the slippery elm or what, but
Somebody needs to do some replanting.
yeah. I tried them from seeds. Doesn't work too good. But I have a slippery elm tree so that I can preserve at least the one.
Philip's asking, are elm the same as slippery elm?
No, there's more than one kind of elm. Slippery elm, the leaves turn yellowish. It has like the flowers. These flowers that I told you about have like a yellowish look to it. I think there's more than one kind of elm. Okay, has anybody ever seen milkweed before?
No.
Really? Man, you guys must be a bunch of city folks. We used to play with these a lot when we were kids. In the midsummer, you would break these open, and they look just like fish. The seeds are flat, and they go just like a scales on a fish.
Huh. I'd pop them just to see that.
The shoots, the buds, and pods are edible.
Wow.
How you will know if it's a milkweed is when you break it open, instead of clear liquid coming out, it's real milky like this. It's sticky milky. And it, don't taste it. It doesn't taste so good. I've never eaten one. I know what they are because we used to play with them. But you don't eat the milk part. I've tasted the milk part. And it's like, I'll tell you one thing, though. My mother had skin cancer on her forehead, and we got rid of it by using the milky part of the milkweed.
Wow.
But you don't eat it. I mean, you don't drink it. And they say you triple boil it, and then you put like tomato sauce or tomato soup or something like that, salsa on top of it. Evening primrose. This is what it looks like. It's called evening primrose because during the day the flowers kind of look like they're dead, and then at night they open up. Or in the evening, not at night. In the evening they open up. You can eat the roots, the green part, the shoots, and the flowers. Evening primrose oil comes from these flowers. That's why it just burns my butt. This is a whole plant. Okay, this is one plant. These little things right here, from here to here, are the seeds. There's just a couple on each flower. That's what evening primrose oil is made out of. So can you imagine how many of these would take to fill up, for them to squish the oil out of it, for it to fill up enough to fill in a bottle?
A ton.
Exactly. So if you can get a bottle of that for 69 cents, you know something's amuck.
Ah, so true, Mary.
Because who in their right mind would go through all that work for 69 cents? You couldn't. You'd lose money. You can put them in salads. I'm a real lazy forager. I just put everything in salads or fry it in butter. These are cleavers. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say where the other thing is, it's just because you're a very good raw foodist. Not 100%.
So much better.
Oh, that's because I'm closer.
Yeah, that sounds so much better.
Yeah.
But I'm mostly lazy. Okay, cleavers. Cleavers stick to you. You can take it, and my kids used to do that. When we would go into the woods and get the cleavers, they would just put them on their body, on their shirts, and walk home with that. The other thing is they can irritate the skin. They have like these little, real fine hairs that are like prickly, you know. You have to make sure you steam them really, really well, or they can irritate the stomach. But they're good for the lymphatic system. And I meant to underline that. They say the juicing is best. I've never juiced them. But I cook the heck out of them to make sure you get rid of all those irritating little hooks off of them, hair hooks off of them. Okay. Plantain is an excellent herb. I've used it not just for consuming, but also for infections. We used to call it rabbit cabbage. And there's two different kinds, this and this. The seeds can be used for like psyllium hulls. And the plant, what you can do is, like if somebody gets a bee sting, you take one of those plants, you chew it up, and you put it on the bee sting, and it will neutralize the poison.
Wow.
If somebody, I knew a little girl, well, I had a friend whose baby was born with a port wine stain on her face. And she, the doctors decided at a day old they have to make sure whether or not the baby can see out of the eye on the side with the port wine stain. In testing the eye, the baby moved and they cut the baby's eye. And it got really, really infected. So my friend took this, put it in a blender, and made a poultice out of the slippery elm and got the infection out. The very next day, it looked like a whole different wound.
Wow.
It was just amazing.
Wow.
You can eat the leaves, the stalks. I don't like the stalks. I like the leaves, and I don't eat the seeds either. Although you can. Like I said, they act like psyllium hulls for you. Just fry them in butter.
That's the leaves or the seeds, Mary?
I only ever did the leaves, but it says on this video thing, they're the ones that said that you could fry them in butter. Okay. I do know that people use them like you would psyllium seeds. What they would do is they would take them, let them dry out, grind them up, and put them with like a smoothie or something. I've never done that. I don't really need to do that. But the leaves we have fried in butter, and they're good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is sumac. There's poisonous sumac. You want to make sure you know your sumac. The yellow, no do it.
Mary?
Yeah?
Where's the H in that?
I'm from Pennsylvania. We put our, we say Lancaster. We put a G in our Lancaster. I can put an H in my sumac.
That's the first time I've ever heard that. I swear, because I've always heard it as sumac.
Sumac. Yeah, we call it sumac, poison sumac.
Okay, well,
Yeah, I know.
you're the doc. We'll let it go.
Well, you know what? A lot of this, like the sumac, I got off my grandfather. My grandfather came from France. He's the first, he wasn't even born in this country. And we always just ever called it sumac.
Okay, well, like I said, you're the doc. We'll let it go.
But the seed, you make a tea out of it. You rinse it really well. And make sure you don't get it near a road because it really holds on to dust and impurities a lot. So get it deeper in. Sumac often grows in our, I noticed the places that I'm thinking like now where we used to gather it, it was like almost like what black cohosh does. It likes the difference between a field and a woods. So it would be between two different terrains. You know what I mean? Like on the edging around the woods or the edging between a field and the woods. But you just make tea out of it. Put a little bit of honey in it. Tastes good. Make sure you know which sumac you use.
Yay!
Okay, elderberries. For a long time, elderberries were really, really rare. I don't know what happened to them either. But they're starting to come back, I noticed, a little bit.
They look delicious.
Oh, they are good. I can tell you one thing, though. Elderberries can ferment while they're still on the branch, the thingy,
Wow.
the stems. Because one time we got a bunch of my kids and my kids don't like them. I love elderberries. So we rinsed them off, and I asked my son to put it in the refrigerator, and there was water in it, and he put it with the water and all. So the next day, I saw that, and I thought, well, they're a little swollen, because they were a little bit swollen. I'll just eat them, and I did, and I got drunk as a skunk. I'm like laughing like an idiot because they kind of fermented. So
that's funny.
But you can use the flowers before they turn into seeds. The flowers are really good for the immune system. It's one of the few, I guess I turned this, sorry. It's one of the few herbs that you can take for your immune system that your immune system does not get dependent on it.
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, according to Eileen Reeves, you have to beat the birds to get to the elderberries, Mary.
Yeah. Birds do love elderberries. They do. But you can take this all the time, and it keeps your immune system beefed up, but it doesn't become dependent on it. So you can eat the fruit, which is the way I like doing it. You can make elderberry wine. You can make elderberry jelly. You can make a tea from it, either the berries or the flowers. Okay, the next one is birch. And that doesn't look like my birch leaf. Huh. Those leaves don't quite look right. I don't know why. I think I might have put the wrong one on. Bananas. Don't use this one as a picture. But birch, you can use any time, as long as you get out in the woods and pick it. What we used to do is we would take the younger little branches off, the twigs, I guess you call it, and you can make a tea out of it or just chew it. Wow. And it has, do you ever drink birch beer?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it tastes like.
Yummy.
So when we were outside playing, if we weren't around a place that we could get something to drink, we'd just do that to keep our mouth moist, and that tastes good. But you can make a birch beer out of it. Okay, are there any questions yet?
No, Mary, you're doing just fine.
Okay, well, this is going to be a very short class. That's okay. It's about time we actually have a short one, Okay, rose hips. You can get different kinds of rose hips, like tame roses. You can use the hips too. This is a picture of wild rose hips. This is the kind we used to have. Our wild roses across from us had the leaves like a rose, and it had the little jigger sticky, that thorn, I guess you call it. But the leaves were, the flowers were white, and they didn't look like that at all. They looked like 5 even, like that. That's what they were, white with a little bit of yellow in. And what you do is you wait until after it frosts, and they turn red. And when you break them open, they're not juicy. They look like they would be juicy. When you break them open, they're real dry inside. And they look almost like pressed cardboard. You boil them, and you can make rosehip tea. I used to make jelly, rosehip jelly. They're very high in vitamin C. Matter of fact, the vitamin C in rosehips is especially good for people like me up north because it does not thin your blood. People who take vitamin C like citrus vitamin C, that thins your blood because where you eat oranges is preparing your blood to be thinner for the summertime. But your blood needs to be a little bit thicker up north. So you could do a lot of this and it not thin out your blood.
Mary?
Yeah?
I bought rose hips before, but they were dried. And when I opened them up, there was like 1,000,000 seeds inside. Did I get the right type?
No, there's a bunch of seeds, but no, there weren't a bunch of little seeds. I don't know. I've never used cultured or tamed roses. I've always ever used wild rose hips.
Okay.
So I don't know what a real rose hip looks like. I just know what these ones look like. And they look like crushed cardboard. And there's there's maybe about 6 or 8 seeds in there.
Okay. No, this was a bunch of seeds. They just all fell out. But in any case, Eileen is asking, is the water considered to be rose water?
If I'm not mistaken, rose water comes from the flower itself.
Yeah, I was thinking the actual petals.
Yeah, that's what I meant, the petals itself.
Yeah.
And wild roses don't smell like roses. But maybe the cultured roses have a different seed makeup, you know?
I don't know if Elliot's trying to pull your leg or not, but he said, you know what's cool? He said rose-flavored ice cream.
Huh.
Now he's
Who
testing
knows?
you, Mary, right?
Hey, I had a friend that made violet-flavored ice cream.
Oh, no, it's real.
Okay. He has a straight face on. He says it's real.
Okay. I've never tasted rose flavor, but my friend used to make the violet.
Oh, that sounds pretty.
And it was good. Okay, so remember, make sure you know the plant. Compare it to the other possible, like a lot of times these places where it has a book, it'll say, do not mistaken hemlock for Queen Anne's lace. Make sure the roots match, even if you're not going to use the roots, the leaves and the stems. You want to make sure that everything on it matches. If it has 2 out of 3 criteria to be that plant, don't use it. It could be another plant. Triple check. Make sure you know the right part. Also the right time of year. I can gather my ginger anytime I want to, but legally in Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken, wild ginger, you can only gather at a certain time, or you can get thrown in a hoosegow. Know how you prepare it. Same thing we talked about in the beginning. Now, there's a lot more plants out there. I try to get the ones that you guys could not mistake it. Like, don't do Queensland lace. That was just to show you there could be other kind of plants that look the same. But the ones that I have are like for beginners because they're pretty hard to mess up. Because I don't want anybody getting sick by doing this. But there's something really nice about it, and you do get nutrients that you wouldn't get somewhere else. You know, man has not found out every single nutrient, mineral, and vitamin that's out there. So you could be getting some stuff from those that you wouldn't get from anywhere else.
You know what, Mary? Organic, you know, is thought to be the best, but I really believe that wild is best.
Oh, absolutely. Wildcrafting is better than just getting it organic. Because wildcraft is where nature has decided to plant it.
Yeah,
it's where it's
absolutely.
thriving and it's adapting to its environment. And it's not all cropped together. You know, well, the rose hips are. You see the rose hips in big bunches. But whenever, let's see, and the elderberry you see in big bunches in the sumac, let's see. Plantain, you'll have one plantain here, then there's another one over here. So it's unique to that area, and it doesn't have to share the nutrients.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else. Yeah, so they go further apart. And they have nutrients that you won't get other places. And I'm telling you, it's really pretty cool. Okay, are there any questions at all?
No questions, but we're even saying great class, and I guess you taught her that there's a great mix of wonderful things in her area.
Well, good. I'm glad.
More great classes. Yeah.
I know it's nothing about health, but I just thought it was kind of cool to do, you know?
I think it's a great extension, and actually it should be included in health because it's natural, you know.
It is. It is. Okie dokie. Well, I hope you all have a really good night. Tomorrow night, I think it's on pH. Let me look and make sure. Yeah, our class tomorrow is like one of the most important classes there is, understanding your pH. And then on Friday, it's the introductory to homeopathics.
Yeah, Mary, I really couldn't stress that enough about pH. I mean, you know, that's the bottom line to so many things. But in any case, you're getting a lot of great classes, very interesting. Take care. Everybody really enjoyed it, you know.
You're sweet. Thank you. Okay, well, everyone have a really good night. And let me know when you gather stuff. Send some pictures.
That would be cool.
Okay, good night, all.
Good night, everybody. Love you, Mary.
Lynn. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Love it. My pleasure.
Okay. Night, everybody.
Night, Mary.
Night.